Assalamu alaikum students, welcome to our lecture 2. Today we will discuss about the physical quantities and SI system. So, what is a physical quantity? All the measurable quantities which we can measure, they are known as physical quantities such as length, temperature, mass and volume. So there are several quantities which we can measure, which we can calculate. All of these quantities which we can measure is known as physical quantities. A physical quantity is basically a measure of a natural non-living object. Like you can see any non-living object which you can calculate, which you can measure. This is known as a physical quantity. In any physical quantity, there are two basic things. One is numerical magnitude and the other one is unit. A very common example, let's say if you go to a shop and you want to buy, let's say, milk from there, then we say like 1 liter of milk, or let's say we say 2 liters of milk. So this 2 is basically known as a numerical magnitude because it gives us some number, the quantity like 2, 3, 4, any number. And then we have the unit such as liters, kilograms, centimeters. So like you can see an example here that a height of a student is 104 centimeter. So 104 here is basically the numerical magnitude and centimeter is the unit. Any physical quantity can be expressed with both of these things. We cannot simply tell about the numerical magnitude, or we cannot simply say about the unit, because it is meaningless to say like if we only say 104 or if we say centimeter. In the same way, like let us look at an example like a bag. It contains 5 kilogram of salt. So 5, number 5 is basically the numerical magnitude here, and kg is the unit here. So any physical quantity can be expressed as a numerical magnitude and the unit. Now, the types of physical quantities. There are two basic types of physical quantities. The first one is the base quantity. So base quantities are the quantities which are the foundations or the basis of which other quantities are expressed. There are 7 physical quantities which forms the foundation of the other physical quantities. These are length, mass, time, electrical current, temperature, intensity of light or light intensity, and amount of substance. The next important type of physical quantity is derived quantity. So derived quantities are expressed in terms of base quantities. One of the important factor of derived quantity is that the derived quantity can only be calculated from 2 or more measurements. And the 2 or more measurements means that it cannot be directly calculated. It can be calculated with the help of the base quantities. Like once you have the knowledge regarding the base quantities, because these are the derived quantities, these are derived from the base quantities. So once you have the base quantities and let's say the value of the base quantity, then you can calculate the derived quantities. Some of the examples of the derived quantities are area, like area of any shape, volume, speed, force, work, energy, electric potential. These all topics we will discuss in our later lectures. Now, these are some examples of the base quantities. These are 7 base quantities that I have told you. First one is length, and it is measured. It has a symbol of m. It is measured in meters. Then we have mass. It is measured in kilograms, known as kg. Then the time. It is calculated in seconds. It is denoted by s. And then we have an electric current, which is denoted as ampere, and its symbol is A. Then we have a temperature, and it is denoted and measured as a Kelvin. And then we have the amount of substance. It is calculated in mole. And then we have luminous intensity, or we can also say it as a light intensity, and it is measured in candela, and its symbol is Cd. Then we have some derived quantities which are calculated with the help of the base quantities, such as displacement. its symbol is D. Then we have the area, then we have the volume of a shape, then speed of some object, then we have the velocity, which is denoted with small v, and then we have an acceleration, which is denoted with small a. Similarly, we have force and energy. So these are the derived quantities which are expressed with the help of the base quantities. Now, there is a specific relationship between the base and the derived quantity. As you can see here in this example, this is the formula of the speed. Speed is basically the ratio of distance and time. So the distance is basically the base quantity. Time is also the base quantity, whereas the speed is the derived quantity. So here you can see that the derived quantity is obtained from two base quantities. In the similar way, you can see in this table, on the left side, we have different derived quantities such as area, volume, density, acceleration, force, and you can see the formulas of these. So all of these formulas, which include some quantities, these are basically base quantities such as the length, the width, the height is the base quantity. As you can see here, an example of speed. Speed is basically distance over time. So this is the distance, and time is the base quantity. Similarly, you can see force, which is the derived quantity, and it is obtained from two things: mass and acceleration. The product of mass and acceleration is known as force. Similarly, you can see here the work. The work is obtained by two things, two base quantities such as force and the distance. This is the product of force and distance. So this is the relationship between base and derived quantity. We will further talk about all of these concepts more in detail as we further go on in the lectures. Then we have international system of units. Because measurement is not a simply accounting, we need some standard quantity for measuring or comparing some unknown quantities. This standard quantity is known as unit. Therefore, there is a worldwide system of measurements which has been developed in order to calculate some quantities and express them in some kind of units. This is known as International System of Units, which is commonly also known as SI system. In the next lecture, I will tell you more about these base quantities, and we will discuss more about the International System of Units.